High Admiral Ziravel of the Vyarkarian Empire stood at the command center of her flagship, the Eternal Dawn, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of the holographic displays. The primitive world called Earth rotated slowly in the projection before her, a jewel of blue and green that seemed impossibly fragile against the backdrop of space. Their defenses are negligible, her tactical officer reported, mandibles clicking in amusement. Their most advanced weapons still rely on chemical propulsion. They haven't even established a proper lunar colony. Ziravel's secondary hearts pulsed with anticipation. After 50 cycles of expansion, the Empire had perfected its approach to incorporating new species. First contact would be peaceful, even generous. They would offer advanced technology, medical breakthroughs, and protection from the galaxy's dangers. The humans would eagerly accept, not realizing that each gift would make them more dependent on the Empire until resistance became impossible. "Begin the standard protocol," she commanded. "Broadcast the greeting message on all frequencies." But humanity's response would shatter 5 centuries of imperial doctrine. The humans' governing body, the United Nations, accepted the initial contact with surprising composure. They agreed to diplomatic meetings, cultural exchanges, and preliminary trade negotiations. Everything proceeded according to the Empire's carefully crafted protocols until the humans made an unprecedented request. They wanted to send observers to other worlds the Empire had helped. "Absolutely not," the Imperial Council had declared. "They are not ready for such knowledge." The humans pressed the issue, and when the Empire repeatedly refused, they began declining the offered technologies one by one. Ziravel's predecessor had reported this unusual behavior to the Council, but they had dismissed it as primitive stubbornness that would soon give way to pragmatism. Then came the Jakarta incident. A junior diplomatic attaché, intoxicated on human alcohol, had boasted to a local reporter about how the Empire had uplifted dozens of species into productive servitude. The recording spread across Earth's information networks within hours. The Empire's propaganda ministry scrambled to dismiss it as a translation error, but the damage was done. Within days, human nations began severing diplomatic ties. Trade agreements were canceled. Imperial diplomats were expelled. The Council, enraged by this defiance, ordered Ziravel to implement the contingency plan, a swift military occupation, to restore order. The invasion began at dawn, coordinated across all major population centers. Imperial forces expected token resistance at best. Instead, they encountered a species that had turned war into an art form. Human fighters, hopelessly outmatched in direct combat, employed tactics the Empire had never encountered. They turned their cities into labyrinths of death, using their knowledge of urban warfare to devastating effect. Their submarines, which the Empire had dismissed as primitive, proved nearly impossible to detect and struck at supply lines with devastating precision. But it was the human psychological warfare that truly unnerved the Imperial forces. They fought with a ferocity that bordered on suicide, yet each sacrifice seemed calculated for maximum strategic impact. They broadcast the names and stories of their fallen across all frequencies, not in lament but in celebration, turning each death into a rallying cry that inspired even fiercer resistance. 6 months into what should have been a simple occupation, Ziravel stood before the holographic display again, watching as another transport burned up in Earth's atmosphere, its precious cargo of supplies lost to the void. Her tactical officer, now missing 2 limbs from a human guerrilla attack, delivered the latest casualties report. "We've lost another 3 battalions in their region called Vietnam," he chittered nervously. "The humans, they're using the environment against us. They know every cave, every jungle path. Our superior technology means nothing when we can't find the enemy." Ziravel's scales had lost their luster, dulled by months of stress and sleepless cycles. The Empire had never failed to subjugate a pre-FTL civilization. Yet these humans were not merely resisting. They were adapting, learning, and growing stronger with each engagement. "High Admiral," Her communications officer interrupted. "We're detecting a transmission from their lunar surface." "Impossible," Zyreval snapped. "We destroyed their space launch capabilities in the first strike." The message began playing before she could order it blocked. On screens across the fleet, a human female appeared, her face bearing the scars of recent combat. "To the Virkarian Empire," she began, her voice steady and cold as space itself. "You came to our world offering gifts, thinking us children who would trade our freedom for shiny toys. You tried to conquer us when we refused your poisoned chalice. Now, watch carefully. This is what humanity does to those who threaten our home." The lunar surface behind her lit up, revealing thousands of hidden installations. Not primitive chemical rockets, but something new. Hybrid drives that combined human ingenuity with salvaged Imperial technology. A swarm of ships rose from the lunar surface, each one piloted by volunteers who had trained in secret while the Empire focused on Earth. As Zyreval watched in horror, the human commander's words echoed through space. "You thought us primitive because we still fought with passion, with anger, with love for our world. You forgot that emotions don't make us weak. They make us unpredictable. They make us dangerous. They make us human." The lunar fleet engaged, and the Empire learned its final lesson about humanity, that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their tactics, but their unshakable will to remain free. Captain Sarah Chen of the U.S. Shadowfin stood in the submarine's darkened control room, her eyes fixed on the quantum imaging display. 2 miles above, a Virkarian destroyer prowled the Pacific waters, its energy sensors sweeping for any sign of human resistance. The alien ship's massive shadow rippled across the ocean's surface, a constant reminder of humanity's technological disadvantage. But Chen smiled. The aliens still hadn't figured it out. "Maintain depth at 800 meters, she whispered, though the Shadowfin's acoustic dampening would have masked even a shout. Status of the fleet. Her XO, Commander Rodriguez, consulted the secure quantum entanglement communicator, one of the few pieces of advanced technology humanity had managed to reverse engineer from captured Virkarian equipment. "Ghost Fleet units report ready, Captain. Barracuda, Spectre, and Wraith are in position. Phantom and Revenant are moving to complete the net." The Ghost Fleet had been born of desperation after the Virkarians seized control of Earth's orbital space. The aliens dominated the skies with their energy weapons and force fields, but they had a critical weakness. Their sensors couldn't penetrate deep water. They had dismissed Earth's oceans as strategic dead zones, never imagining that humanity would turn these dark waters into their greatest advantage. "Tactical status of the package?" Chen asked, referring to the experimental weapon in their forward torpedo tubes. "Package is primed, Captain. Graviton field is stable." The weapon represented the perfect fusion of human ingenuity and stolen alien science. The Virkarians had assumed humans couldn't comprehend their advanced technology, but they had underestimated the adaptability of human engineers. It hadn't taken long to realize that the aliens' force fields could be reversed, turned into graviton weapons that could tear a ship apart from the inside. "Signal from Barracuda," Rodriguez reported. "Target ship is entering the kill box." Chen nodded, feeling the familiar surge of pre-combat adrenaline. "Launch the drones." Dozens of small, autonomous underwater vehicles deployed from the Ghost Fleet submarines, each one carrying a fraction of the signature of a full-sized sub. The swarm spread out, creating a complex pattern of false targets that would confuse even the most sophisticated Virkarian sensors. Above them, the alien destroyer registered the sudden burst of contacts. It responded exactly as predicted, dropping its altitude and powering up its weapons. The Virkarians were nothing if not consistent in their tactics, a fatal flaw against an enemy as adaptable as humanity. "They're charging their main gun," Tactical reported. "Energy signature is building." "Wait for it," Chen commanded, her fingers drumming softly on the command rail. The alien ship had to commit fully to the attack before they could spring their trap. The destroyer fired its primary weapon, a beam of concentrated plasma that superheated a massive column of seawater, creating a temporary cavity through which they could target what they thought were human submarines. It was an impressive display of power, and exactly what the Ghost Fleet had been counting on. "Now," Chen ordered, "all units, execute Pattern Omega." The 5 submarines launched their graviton torpedoes simultaneously. The weapons rode the pressure wave created by the destroyer's own attack, using the temporary vacuum as an express lane to their target. By the time the Virkarian sensors detected the incoming threat, it was too late. The graviton warheads detonated in a precisely calculated sequence, creating a cascading failure in the destroyer's force fields. The massive ship, designed for the zero-gravity environment of space, suddenly found itself subjected to the full force of Earth's gravity focused into precise points along its hull. Metal screamed as the structure buckled under forces it was never designed to withstand. "Direct hits confirmed," Tactical announced with professional calm. "Target's power grid is cascading. They're going down." Chen watched through the quantum imager as the pride of the Virkarian fleet succumbed to the inexorable pull of gravity and the crushing depths of the Pacific. The aliens had never considered that humanity's primitive understanding of ocean warfare would become their undoing. "Signal from Fleet Command," Rodriguez said, his voice tight with excitement. "Operation Deep Strike is now authorized. All Ghost Fleet units are to proceed with Phase 2. A predatory grin spread across Chen's face. The destruction of the destroyer was just the beginning. While the Virkarians had been focused on this battle, other Ghost Fleet units had been placing graviton mines along their major orbital supply routes. When those ships descended into the atmosphere to deliver their cargo, they would find that Earth's gravity had become their enemy. "Send acknowledgement to command," she ordered, "and get me a secure channel to all Ghost Fleet units." When the channel opened, Chen spoke with quiet intensity. "This is Ghost Actual to all units. The hunter has become the hunted. Phase 2 is authorized. Show these aliens why humanity's navies have always ruled the deep." As the Shadowfin and her sister ships slipped away into the darkness, Chen reflected on how the Virkarians' greatest mistake had been assuming that humanity's outdated military technologies were obsolete. They had failed to understand that every weapon, every tactic in human history had been bought with blood and refined through countless battles. Now they would learn that lesson the hard way. The Ghost Fleet had proven that humanity's strength lay not in matching the aliens' advanced technology, but in adapting their existing tools in ways the enemy could never anticipate. The oceans that had shaped human civilization for millennia would now become the anvil upon which humanity would forge its liberation. Dr. Maya Patel stood before the assembled leaders of Earth's Unified Defense Council, her hand steady as she manipulated the holographic display. The image showed a double helix slowly rotating, segments highlighted in pulsing red. "The Virkarians believe their extended lifespan gives them an insurmountable advantage," she began. "A single one of their scientists can work on a problem for centuries. They see our shorter lives as proof of our inferiority." She paused, allowing a slight smile to cross her face. "They're wrong." The display zoomed in on a particular sequence of genes. Project Prometheus began with a simple observation. The Virkarian neural architecture is stable, unchanging. Their 1,000-year lifespan comes at the cost of neural plasticity. They literally cannot think in new ways. Behind her, screens display brain scans of both species. Human brains, in contrast, are constantly forming new neural pathways. We adapt, we evolve, we change. Every new generation brings fresh perspectives, unbound by the assumptions of their predecessors. General Santos, his face bearing the scars of orbital bombardment, leaned forward. "Doctor, we appreciate the biology lesson, but how does this help us win the war?" Maya's smile widened. "Because we found a way to weaponize evolution itself." She gestured, and the hologram shifted to display a new image, a hybrid of human and Virkarian technology. We call it the Nexus Engine. It's a quantum computing system that mirrors the human brain's ability to form new neural pathways. But unlike traditional computers, it doesn't just process information, it evolves. The room erupted in murmurs as she continued. Each Nexus engine starts with basic tactical and strategic protocols. But like a human brain, it learns, adapts, and most importantly, it inherits and builds upon the learning of previous iterations. We're not just building an AI. We're creating an evolutionary algorithm that thinks like a human but operates at quantum speeds. Admiral Chen, recently promoted after her successes with the Ghost Fleet, raised an eyebrow. The Vircarians have quantum computers too. What makes this different? Their computers are like their minds, logical, predictable, bound by established patterns. Maya explained. The Nexus engine embraces chaos theory, emotional reasoning, and intuitive leaps. It thinks in ways that are fundamentally human, but at a speed and scale we could never achieve naturally. She brought up footage from the initial tests. In simulated battles, the first generation of Nexus engines performed adequately against Vircarian tactics. By the 10th generation, they were predicting and countering strategies the aliens hadn't even tried yet. By the 100th generation, they were developing battle plans that seemed insane at first glance, but proved devastatingly effective. The hologram showed a particularly dramatic simulation where a small human fleet used seemingly random maneuvers to force a much larger Vircarian force into a cascading series of tactical errors. The engines aren't just learning. They're evolving faster than the Vircarians can adapt. Every defeat, every setback becomes data for the next generation. Dr. Patel's expression turned serious. But here's the real breakthrough. We've managed to interface the engines with our reverse-engineered Vircarian tech. Every weapon, every shield generator, every propulsion system can now evolve its operating patterns in real time. Our ships won't just have better tactics, they'll be fundamentally unpredictable at every level. She brought up the final simulation. 3 days ago, we ran a full-scale battle simulation. A single human destroyer equipped with a 15th generation Nexus engine against an entire Vircarian battle group. The destroyer not only survived, it achieved total tactical victory. The Vircarian commanders couldn't cope with a ship that could evolve new strategies mid-battle. General Santos studied the data with narrowed eyes. How soon can we deploy? The first batch of engines is ready now. We can begin installing them in the Ghost Fleet immediately, followed by our orbital defense platforms. Within 3 months, every human ship and installation will have a Nexus engine at its core. Maya's voice filled with quiet pride. The Vircarians thought our short lives made us weak. Instead, they've driven us to create something they can never match. Their unchanging minds gave them the stars, but our adaptability will let us take them back. She gestured one final time, and a hologram showed Earth, surrounded by a web of quantum-linked Nexus engines, each one evolving, learning, growing stronger. They wanted to break humanity by showing us how small we are. Instead, they taught us to transcend our limitations. Project Prometheus isn't just a weapon. It's the next step in human evolution. As the council members began discussing deployment strategies, Maya watched the simulation running in an endless loop. The Vircarians had spent centuries perfecting their technology, but they had forgotten a fundamental truth. Evolution favors those who can adapt. Humanity's greatest weakness, their short, chaotic lives, had forced them to become masters of change. Now that mastery would reshape the galaxy. The vast command center of the Vircarian flagship, Eternal Consensus, hummed with the synchronized thoughts of its crew. Supreme Commander Val Shera watched through compound eyes as the anomaly grew larger on the main display. The dark, swirling mass defied their most advanced sensors, consuming everything in its path. For the first time in recorded history, the Vircarian hive mind felt fear. The anomaly had appeared without warning at the edge of their territory, a week after their latest defeat by the humans' evolving quantum ships. Initial analysis suggested it was some kind of space-time distortion, but its behavior defied all known physical laws. It consumed matter, energy, even light itself, and it was growing exponentially. The collective wisdom suggests immediate retreat. The hive mind whispered through thousands of synchronized voices, "We cannot defeat what we cannot understand." But as the Vircarian fleet prepared to abandon the sector, a transmission cut through their communications network. The face of Admiral Helena Santos, commander of Earth's Combined Defense Force, appeared on their screens. "Supreme Commander Val Shera," she said, her single voice somehow carrying more weight than the hive mind's chorus. "We've detected the anomaly. Our analysis suggests it will reach Earth space within 3 days. We propose a temporary alliance." Val Shera's mandibles clicked in surprise. "You would trust us after all we have done?" "Trust has nothing to do with it," Santos replied. "This threat affects us all. We've been studying the data from our quantum arrays, and we believe we've identified patterns in the anomaly's behavior. But we need your help to implement a solution." The hive mind buzzed with discord. Working with individuals seemed inefficient, chaotic. But the humans had repeatedly proven their ability to solve problems that had stumped the collective intelligence of the Vircarians. "Speak," Val Shera commanded. What followed was unlike any military briefing in Vircarian history. Instead of a unified plan presented with perfect consensus, the humans offered multiple competing theories and approaches. Scientists argued with engineers, tactical officers proposed conflicting strategies, and through it all, the Nexus engines spun out countless simulations of possible outcomes. "This is madness," Val Shera protested. "How can you function without consensus?" Dr. Maya Patel, now heading Earth's Scientific Council, stepped into view. "That's exactly how we function, Commander. Each human brings their own perspective, their own approach to problem solving. When we combine these different viewpoints, we see patterns that a single unified perspective might miss." She brought up a complex mathematical model. "Look here. The anomaly doesn't just consume everything it touches. It reacts differently to different forms of matter and energy. Your sensors couldn't see it because you were looking for consistent behavior, but it's the inconsistencies that reveal its true nature." The human scientists explained their theory. The anomaly wasn't a natural phenomenon, but a higher dimensional construct, like a 4-dimensional object casting a 3-dimensional shadow. Its apparent chaos was actually a pattern too complex for any single perspective to grasp. "We need your fleet's power generation capacity," Santos explained. "Combined with our Nexus engine's ability to predict and adapt to the anomaly's behavior, we might be able to create a resonance field that could force it back into its original dimension." The plan seemed impossible to the Vircarian hive mind. It required split-second timing, with each ship acting independently based on real-time analysis from the Nexus engines. It went against everything their species believed about the superiority of unified action. But they had no choice. The next 48 hours were a crash course in human-style collaboration for the Vircarian crews. They had to learn to think independently, to trust their individual judgment when the Nexus engines gave them commands that seemed to contradict what other ships were doing. As they engaged the anomaly, the battlefield became a chaos of seemingly random energy pulses and ship movements. Each vessel fired its generators at different frequencies, creating a complex interference pattern guided by the ever-evolving calculations of the Nexus engines. To the Vircarian hive mind, it looked like pure disorder. But slowly, inexorably, the anomaly began to shrink. "Impossible," Val Shera whispered as the dark mass collapsed in on itself. "How could such chaos produce such precision?" Admiral Santos smiled. "Because it wasn't chaos, Commander. It was complexity. Life itself is built on the principle that simple rules, when applied by millions of independent actors, can create something greater than the sum of its parts. You sought to perfect your species by making everyone think alike. We perfected ourselves by learning to think differently while working together." As the anomaly finally winked out of existence, the Vircarian hive mind experienced something new: doubt. All their assumptions about the superiority of unified thought were being questioned. They had just witnessed how diversity of thought, combined with voluntary cooperation, could solve problems that perfect consensus could not. The humans hadn't just saved both their species, they had demonstrated a fundamental truth about the nature of intelligence itself. The future belonged not to those who could think as one, but to those who could think as many while acting as one. Grand Archon Zixtal, supreme leader of the Verkarian Empire, stood before the Galactic Council chamber, his iridescent scales dulled with age and worry. Representatives from 1,000 worlds filled the ancient hall, but all eyes were fixed on the small human delegation standing at the chamber center. 5 years had passed since the anomaly incident, and the galaxy had changed more in that time than in the previous millennium. The Verkarian Empire, once the undisputed master of known space, had been forced to confront uncomfortable truths about their assumptions of superiority. "We gather today," Zixtal announced, his voice carrying the weight of history, "to address humanity's petition for full recognition as a Level 1 civilization and their right to serve as guardians of the galactic core sectors." A murmur rippled through the chamber. For millennia, the Verkarians had been the only species deemed advanced enough to hold that responsibility. Now these brief-lived creatures who had barely mastered faster-than-light travel dared to claim equal status. Dr. Maya Patel stepped forward, her quantum interface implant glowing softly at her temple. Behind her, a new generation of Nexus engines hummed, their evolutionary algorithms now so advanced they could model the thoughts and reactions of every being in the chamber. "Honored Council," she began, "we stand before you not as conquerors or rivals, but as children of the same cosmic heritage. The Verkarian Empire taught us many things, though perhaps not the lessons they intended." She gestured, and the chamber's holographic systems came to life, showing Earth's rapid transformation over the past 5 years. Cities that melded organic architecture with quantum computing networks, ships that could evolve their very structure in response to new challenges, and most surprisingly, humans working alongside Verkarians in research centers across the planet. When you first came to Earth, you saw our emotions as a weakness, our short lives as a limitation, our diversity as a flaw. But these very traits drove us to innovations your logic could never conceive. The display shifted to show the new hybrid technologies that had emerged from human-Verkarian collaboration. Quantum computers that incorporated emotional processing, ships guided by both collective wisdom and individual intuition. Even the Verkarians themselves had begun to experiment with controlled neural plasticity, allowing for limited but significant individual variation in their thought patterns. We discovered that true advancement comes not from perfecting a single approach, but from embracing the creative tension between order and chaos, logic and emotion, individual and collective. The galaxy doesn't need guardians who have achieved perfection. It needs guardians who never stop evolving. Admiral Santos, her hair now white, but her eyes as sharp as ever, stepped forward. "Your empire spent millennia trying to impose order on the galaxy. But the cosmos itself teaches us that life thrives on the edge of chaos, in the dynamic balance between competing forces. Humanity's gift isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our ability to dance on that edge, to find new patterns in the chaos." The chamber erupted in discussion, thousands of voices debating the implications. But Zixtal raised a hand for silence, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic displays of Earth's achievements. "When we first encountered your species," he said, "we believed we were meeting our past, primitive beings who had yet to transcend their biological limitations. Instead, we were meeting our future. Your kind has proven that true advancement lies not in overcoming emotion or enforcing unity, but in finding strength in diversity and wisdom in change." He turned to address the full council. "The Verkarian Empire has long claimed to be the pinnacle of evolution, but we have learned that evolution has no pinnacle. It is an endless dance of adaptation and change. Humanity, with their brief lives and countless perspectives, embodies this truth in ways we have forgotten." The vote that followed was unprecedented in council history. Species after species, even those who had long been allies of the Empire, voted to approve Earth's petition. They had seen how humanity's approach had already begun to transform the galaxy, creating new possibilities that rigid adherence to logic and order had never imagined. As the ceremony concluded, Dr. Patil found herself standing beside Zixtal in the Council's Garden of Remembrance. The ancient Verkarian studied a newly planted earth tree, its leaves shifting in patterns that seemed random but contained deep mathematical significance. "You know," he said, breaking with formal protocol, "for 10,000 years, we believed we had solved the riddle of existence. Perfect logic, perfect unity, perfect order. We thought we were teaching lesser species how to transcend their nature. And instead," Patil asked, though she already knew the answer. "Instead, we learned that transcendence isn't about leaving our nature behind. It's about embracing it fully, with all its contradictions and complications. Your species taught us that evolution isn't a ladder to climb, but a dance to perfect." As they watched, a new generation of hybrid quantum organic satellites passed overhead, their patterns constantly shifting as they evolved to meet new challenges. They were neither human nor Verkarian technology, but something entirely new, just as the galaxy itself was becoming something new. "We are all evolution's children," Patil said softly. "Some of us just needed reminding." The galaxy spun on, its spiral arms filled with countless civilizations, each contributing their own notes to the grand symphony of existence. And at its heart, humanity danced their eternal dance of chaos and order, emotion and logic, individual and collective, lighting the way forward into an ever-evolving future.